Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
Welcome, everyone, to the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. I am Derek.
I'm Heather.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Matt.
All right, so we do have quite a bit of news since we were last recording. I'm going to start with some injury updates. First off, we have Brandon Montour. So last podcast, we talked about him being injured and out of the last two periods of that Flames game before the Four Nations break. But since then, he's been back and he's played. So hopefully he stays healthy. But I did just want to share that because I know last time I said he was maybe injured. So this is all good news. Other good news is Jordan Eberle, the captain, is back. And I know I say this every time, and I'll probably say it again this podcast, but I'm still amazed that he had this unprecedented injury, had surgery, and no walking or weight bearing for 8 weeks. And then here he is. It's amazing to me. He was sent to Coachella for a conditioning stint during the Four Nations break. He didn't end up playing any games down there, but my understanding is that he did practice with them since the Kraken were on a break. So I think that was probably good, get some reps in and stuff. But I know we're all really happy to see him back, not just on the ice, not just in practice, but just back to playing games and being that leadership. I think we're all really glad to see that. Yanni Gourde had a sports hernia surgery, but he has been back to practice, but in a red no contact jersey. And then on Friday, February 28th, he was back practicing out of that red no contact jersey. So after practice, Coach Baalsma said that the plan was not tracking for Gourde to play in the game Saturday, and he did not play that game. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as the trade deadline is looming. We'll see what happens with Gourde. A couple of other cool stats this week. Vince Dunn just logged his 200th career assist on Ellie Tolvanen's goal during the Canucks game on March 1st. And looking to the future, Berkeley Catton hit 100 points this season, which is his second straight season doing so. It was on his 35th goal of the season, which is also amazing. And it also marked his 275th career WHL point. So that's a cool thing to think about, just having him come up at some point and get to be a part of the Kraken. So I'm super excited about that. Now I'm going to get into roster moves. It has been a little bit wild in terms of roster moves. I'm going to kind of move to like the most impactful ones and the ones that are current, because there was a lot of kind of movement, like Jordan Eberle going down for his conditioning stint and coming back up. But we did have Mitchell Stevens being reassigned to Coachella Valley. Ben Myers was recalled from Coachella Valley, and Ty Cartier was reassigned to Coachella on a conditioning loan. When they do the conditioning loan, that means they don't have to go through waivers. And at practice Thursday, right before that happened, he was actually playing center, which isn't his usual role. So everyone was kind of raising eyebrows, like, what is going on with this? So for him going down for a conditioning stint kind of makes sense there. And then I want to talk about goalies. This is sort of, this one is sort of wild, but I kind of felt like it was drawing the line in the sand a little bit with the Grubauer situation after the Four Nations break. So it was interesting to see, like, would they call up Alex Stezka or would they bring Grubauer up? Because either way, someone was going to play that first weekend back because they had a back-to-back. So they did recall Stezka, and he played his first NHL game on February 23rd. So yay for Stezzy, happy for that. I wonder about why they did that exactly. Like, was there no trust in Gru quite yet? Did they just want him to get more reps? I don't know. But it gets more interesting because the very next day, Stezka was reassigned to Coachella Valley and Nikki Coco was called up to the Kraken. So in the St. Louis game, Joey was actually pulled from that game and Coco got to play his first NHL game. So this is such a great stat because it's kind of like saying my kid is 480 months old, but at 20 years and 347 days old, he was the youngest goalie to have an NHL debut this season. So good for Coco, happy for him to do that. But today, which is March 2nd, they recalled Philip Grubauer from Coachella Valley and sent Coco back down. Personally, I'm thinking the timing has to do with his bobblehead night coming up on Tuesday. But the question, I guess, is really, will he stay up with the team for the rest of the season and finish it out? Or will he go back down to Coachella? So, Alex, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's an interesting development, so to speak, with the Grubauer being called back up to Seattle. For those of you who aren't aware, he played 7 games with Coachella, had 5 wins, 2 losses. had a save percentage of .893 and had a goals against average of 2.87. When it comes to HL numbers, record's nice, save percentage really isn't the best, and goals against average is could be better, so to speak, but not the type of stat line you want to see for a $5.9 million goaltender in the NHL to have while he's in the AHL. However, saying that, I do agree with Heather. Most likely, the reasoning why is because the Grubauer bobblehead night is happening on Tuesday this week. So you don't want to have him down in Coachella when they're giving away 10,000 of his bobbleheads. It kind of gets a little bit more interesting at this point because at the moment, Grubauer fits under the salary cap, but Yanni Gourde is still an LTIR. There has been numerous trade talks about the Kraken trading Gourde, but because he is still on LTIR coming off the hernia surgery, we would need to activate him. And, if they want to showcase him before the deadline that happens on Friday. I believe if we have to activate him, we would be over the cap, which means the Kraken would most likely have to make a trade either by Tuesday to fit him under the cap if they reactivate Gourde, or by Thursday to fit Gourde under the cap. It gets very interesting this close to the deadline. I do echo the fact that I don't know if Grubauer is going to stay in Seattle for the rest of the season or be sent down. Part of me is wondering if it's going to be kind of like a farewell tour for Grubauer because there's 23 games left. There's not many back-to-backs. It could be just thank you for your time here in Seattle. The fans can say their goodbyes. The team can say their goodbyes, but we're going to buy you out in the offseason. That's kind of what I'm getting the feeling of. But it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. And this could be completely obsolete by the time this is posted tomorrow because there could be a Kraken trade within the next hour. We don't know. But with the Grubauer being brought up to Seattle again, I think we're kind of on a clock right now to see if there's any trades that are going to happen by Tuesday night. Because if Gourde's in the lineup, we're over the cap. So it's going to be really interesting. We can send down Ben Myers, and I think we would fit under the cap, but I don't know. It's too close to the deadline to really start kind of guessing at this point. It'll be interesting, but yeah, couple head scratchers, so to speak, in the call up.
Yeah, very much so. I'm just picturing like us splicing in like a breaking news: the Kraken have traded Yanni Gourde.
Oh, I could totally see this happening. Yeah, or it's gonna be someone like breaking news: the Kraken have traded Jaden Schwartz, or
Right, so totally random.
And then it's just Matt being like, "Yeah, so I'm recording this right now, and I'm reading information off the score." But yeah, I don't get it.
That was a strange one to see today. I was wondering about the bobblehead night, what they were going to do, but
yeah,
it just makes sense that they'd bring him back up. Will he play? That's the other question, right?
Do you want
I
him
don't
to
know.
play? I don't want him to play.
I know. It's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he should play.
Why
Maybe
not?
he should.
The season's going nowhere, so
Yeah, may as
why
well.
not? Yeah. I
Let
guess
him
we'll
have his
find out.
bobblehead night.
Yeah, because then Joey has his bobblehead night on the 12th.
Yeah,
think.
the
I need
next
that
week.
bobblehead.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, as always, for that news update, Heather. Now, last time we all recorded, we decided to skip over our usual vibe check to try to avoid any further doom and gloom and bad vibes about the team that we've just been feeling week in and week out, and we're going to try doing that once again today. Instead, today we're going to do a segment that we're calling Trade Deadline Keepers. Last show, we discussed the possibility of different players being traded away from the team. This week, with the trade deadline looming on Friday, only a few short days away, we are each going to pick 4 players that we would consider untouchable in our books for the Kraken front office for trades. Before doing this, we all agreed that Joey Daccord and Shane Wright were mutually untouchable, so we're not going to include them. So with that being said, who wants to kick things off and share your who's and your whys?
I'll go ahead and go first. So my 4 untouchables at the deadline. I have Jared McCann. To me, he's a jersey in the rafters player for us. I just think we can't get rid of Jared McCann. Like, he's just such a Kraken to me. his recent convo for the Kraken this morning didn't change my mind on that either. He said, Seattle's been so great to me. I'm so excited that I've been here the last couple of years. And then when asked if he would stay if he had the option, he said, "Oh, of course, Seattle's my home. My wife loves it here. We've made so many friendships here outside of hockey, and this place has been so good to me." And I know that players aren't going to say like, "No, I hate it here," but I do feel like he didn't have to go that far and say all of that. So I just can't imagine the team without Jared McCann. So that's my first untouchable. My second untouchable is Matty Beniers. I just think the team has invested so much in him and his development. And, he's had stumbles. We've given him some crap over the season. He had a slow start this season, but I think he's still such an important part of the team. And I think that's obviously how the team feels overall. Whether or not we agree with the A on his jersey, obviously it signals something to have that there. So I don't see him being moved. And I also, envision the team with him kind of being a leader long term down the line. Maybe it'll take some time. He's still young, but I do see him as somebody who's core Kraken. My third non-negotiable is Ellie Tolvanen, best waiver wire pickup in history. And I think he just should stick around for sure. He's got a killer shot. He's come in clutch for the team so many times. He's so solid. He's mostly consistent. He did have, a little streak here this season where he wasn't, but, the team just needs that consistency so badly. He's only 25. He's got another year on his contract after this. And I just think they're going to keep him around. On top of that, I think him sticking around also helps Capo Caco stick around and feel comfy. And I actually think that a key focus either soon or in the offseason will be extending Kako. So I think that's also an important connection there. So I think Ellie Tolvanen has to stick around. And my fourth non-negotiable is Riker Evans. He is a restricted free agent at the end of the season, so they'll need to extend him and probably pay him more. But I think they'll do that because it was so noticeable when he was out with injury this season, and he's just improved so much over the last few years. He's really a key piece of the defense, and he's only 23. So I think he's just going to keep improving. Like, he hasn't hit the peak of his game. And I just think they're not going to get rid of Garth. Like, I just think he needs to stick around. I think that'll be a key piece too in the offseason is extending him. So those are my four.
All right, so for my list to start off, I might be a little selfish with this one due to just local proximity, but I'm making sure to keep Jordan Eberle on this squad. Yes, he is my hometown favorite. He's been my number one since day one, but I also feel like there's many more factors here. I don't want another Mark Giordano situation where we freshly slap, stitch, heat press the captaincy onto the Kraken jerseys only for that someone to be traded away immediately after. This guy has been putting in work to recover from his crazy, unprecedented pelvis injury and has just made his return to the ice. I think that we need his dad energy in the locker room for some of these younger guys coming up to help them along a little bit in their development with the little bit of time that he has left on his contract. Second for me is Matty Beniers. I think that from the moment he was drafted, we all knew that Ron Francis was marking this kid as the future of the franchise, and I think that's even more shown with putting the A on his chest this season. Pair that with the juicy contract that he signed this summer, and I don't think he is going anywhere. Along a similar future note, I think we have to lock down Capo Caco. I am shocked and stunned that we haven't done so yet. I'm not sure what we're dragging our feet on, but it seems pretty clear early on that he has gelled very quickly with his new team since coming over from the Rangers, especially being lined up with Matty Beniers and Jaden Schwartz. I think the foundation of Kraken 2.0 is going to be a young one. It might be a rough one to start, but it's going to be a young one, and a guy like Caco is going to be a strong part of that foundation for sure. And lastly, I'm choosing to keep Brandon Montour. Similarly to Matty Beniers, Monty signed a huge contract this summer after being picked up in free agency, and he's had a fairly strong presence on the team since joining. He's slowed up a bit compared to his hat-trick featuring start of the season, but things seem to have been turning up lately, and he does bring many positive qualities to our defensive pairings, brings cup-winning experience, and also brings those sweet nicknames that we know and love, like Schweeberger, Twos, and just all those other ones.
All right, so I took a little bit of thought in thinking about who my four untouchable players would be within the Kraken roster. First one, kind of echoing what Heather stated with Jared McCann. McCann's just one of those types of players that he really is, in some way, shape, or form, one of the faces of the Seattle Kraken. He's not the front and center, but he is the goal scoring leader. He is someone I think who is a quiet leader within the dressing room. And ultimately put, I think if you get rid of him, you are going to be searching for more of what your team is. This team is really struggling to figure out their core and their identity. And I think if you remove Jared McCann from that equation, the identity suffers even further. Echoing off of what Heather said with when they asked him some questions about the trade deadlines coming around, like, how are you feeling? He's saying that he's not sleeping at night because, trade deadline is stressful. And if you look back at Jared McCann's career, he has gone from team to team. He started with Vancouver, he's gone to Pittsburgh, went to Florida, got flipped over to Toronto literally for like about 3 days before being picked up by the Kraken. Seattle is his home. Seattle is where him and his family have been able to set in roots. And I think he's one of those players that if the possibility became a reality where he could stay here for the rest of his career, he would sign on the dotted line and do that. So when it comes to that, yeah, his scoring and scoring lack this season for sure. But look at the team, look at who he's played with. There's many reasons as to why we're seeing something like that. And I definitely think selling him now would be a negative impact for what this team is looking for, which is goal scoring and leadership. And we desperately need that. So I think Jared McCann needs to stay. So that's my first one. My second one, I think, is going to raise a lot of eyebrows, but I'm just going to go with it. It's Jordan Eberle. A lot of people are going to say, oh, he's old. We need to get rid of this old mentality. This team needs leadership. He's your captain. The last time we had a captain, it was Mark Giordano. We sent him off to Toronto within, half a season of this franchise. We need that one guy who is going to wear the C, don the C for the next 2-3 years and help develop the young talent. We don't have a captain outside of Jordan Eberle. We can talk about all this leadership quality, but realistically speaking, we do not have somebody that we can easily be like, well, Jordan Eberle's out of the picture. We can slap the C on, insert name. What I definitely think is with Jordan Eberle, he's got this year, he's got next year. Who's to say you sign him for an additional extension for maybe a year or two? And you have him in the lineup to help build that leadership, especially it's like a passing of a torch. And I think you need that. So Jordan Eberle is my second pick in the untouchable because you need that. You desperately need that with a team that is not only struggling this season, but has struggled realistically since the franchise began. So crucial piece to the puzzle of the Seattle Kraken is Jordan Eberle. My third pick is going to be Eeli Tolvanen. Like what Heather mentioned before, greatest waiver pickup of all time. But you also need scoring, and I think Eeli Tolvanen will also be a key component as to why Kaapo Kakko signs an extension here in Seattle. So kind of a couple key components in there. But like I said, you need scoring. He's young. You're going to continue building up this young core, and he's going to be there hopefully for the long run. So he's my third pick. And my number 4 pick, I kind of like bounce back and forth. And I'm going to say Vince Dunn. I have mentioned in the past that, and I even tweeted about it a couple of days ago saying, these are the players that I would keep and these are the players that I would get rid of or even listen to trade offers. And I left Vince Dunn off the list on you should keep these players safe. Primarily thinking behind that being like if an offer came in for Vince Dunn that was that offered prospect picks or even a player they can slot in right away, cool. The more I thought about it, the more I realized we don't have a lot of strong defense. Our defensive pool in the minors is lacking, and our prospects we don't have a lot of prospects in the defensive area. Vince Dunn is someone that you have under contract for the next couple of years. He's a bona fide, proven star on our team, and he has the grit that you need when you need it. He can score. He can get assists. He just registered his 200th assist in the last game. And so he's definitely another player that I see as an untradeable because you need those players. And I think if you got rid of Vince Dunn this year or next year or even the year after, you'd be kicking and screaming because you just let go of a player who is going to fill out that back line 100% of the time.
Okay, yeah, and then my 4 are honestly going to echo at least Heather and Alex's a lot because I'm just going to break it up into two different categories. So the first category are people, one is 24 and one is 25. They're going to grow more with the team. I think they will definitely be hitting their prime, like 28, 29 years old, when this team is like competitive again. And that is Capo Caco and Ellie Tolvanen. So as Heather said, keeping Tolvanen will sort of lead to keeping Caco as well. But Caco's contract is done at the end of this year, and then he's an RFA. I think we can get him for relatively cheap. I mean, honestly, Ron seems to just love handing out 7 mil to every single player right now. So I don't know. Hopefully it's not. But honestly, as the cap grows, it might not look too bad. Tolvanen has one more year at 3.475, and I think he's definitely worth that, and he'll be probably worth the contract that we sign him to after. So those are those two guys. The second two guys are Vince Dunn and Jared McCann. And those are guys that I think won't necessarily be here when this team is like competitive, to be honest. Or McCann might be like 31 when the team's really competitive. Vince Dunn might be, I mean, he's 28 right now. He might be like 32 by the time this team's like really competitive. And I remember seeing Alex talking about that too, or maybe someone in his replies talking about that on Twitter with Vince Dunn. For sure, not being here in our competitive window, or Jared McCann not being here in our competitive window. Even though they won't necessarily be here in our competitive window, you might not get that overlap. As Alex just said, you need those people there for the leadership. You have to have a mold for these younger guys to fill into. A team of just all young people is not good for growth because they have no one to look up to. They have no one to teach them besides like the coach who doesn't even really need to be like a former good NHL player, really. They're just kind of like a motivator or whatever, and they have schemes and stuff. But you have veteran guys who have, McCann has had a 40-goal season. Vince Dunn, he's like amazing at facilitating, and just being out there with confidence and carrying the puck around, stuff that, we want to see Riker develop into. He hasn't really, but like Vince Dunn is there to guide him too. So as we move people up, I think those are two guys that you definitely need there as well. Man, Vince Dunn, Jared McCann, they're also just like complete staples in Kraken history. I just don't know. You just can't find a single fan that doesn't like those two players. And I think that says a lot. So you got to keep those guys around. We're happy. We're all happy to be back, but we did take a lengthy break for the Four Nations face-off. And these are the 4 games that the Kraken have played while we were gone. We're just going to sort of go through the results and then talk about some talking points that we have from these games. We're not going to go in and break down each specific one like normal. So first, there was game 58 that was at the Florida Panthers, and the Kraken won 2-1. Then there was game 59, which was in Tampa Bay against the Lightning, which they lost 4-1. And then there was game 60, and no one's going to like game 60 because that was at St. Louis against the Blues, and it was a 7-2 loss. And then game 61, at home in Seattle versus the Vancouver Canucks, which was a 6-3 win. And we were actually recording this on Kraken Day. I just wanted to mention that 3-2. So Heather, did you want to start with sharing your talking points from these 4 games?
I think a couple of things of these games. It's nice to see Jordan Eberle back. Like, I'm really, really happy to see him back. I know we say it a ton. It's just insane that he's recovered and he's back playing, and they've sort of been giving him a little bit less ice time than he might be used to, which is great. And they're sort of ramping him up. So I like that because I'd rather that. There's nothing at stake right now. Why put him through too much? I'm also loving that we had our 2 AHL goalies, Stezka and Coco, both get to play. Stezka due to the back-to-back, and then Coco actually came in for Joey, which is something else about that game. I'll talk about that in a sec. But just that game was absolutely abysmal. But it's nice to see those two get a start. Like, I love that part of it. Like, the highlight of that Tampa Bay game or the St. Louis game, sorry, for me was just seeing Coco get to play because, I didn't think he'd get that chance. So I love that. I really like that we're seeing Shane Wright sparkle and shine more, and people are noticing that. To me, that is amazing. He's just so smart. He's really making these amazing plays and passes. And I know it's rudimentary to say like he's keeping track of the puck in the offensive zone, but that's something the Kraken don't always do. And he's doing that. And I'm watching him track the puck and he's just being so smart. He's winning face-off battles. He's winning battles against the boards. Like, I'm just really excited to see that growth and development. And that's really a bright spot in these games for me, is watching him. And he's scoring. He's obviously like making the team better just by being there. In fact, Derek, you said maybe it's Berkey's game being elevated by Shane Wright because Berkey did score and actually looked pretty good in the Canucks game. So maybe there was something to that. As much as I don't want to admit Berkey playing well, but maybe that's it. But I do think, there is something to having a young player who's so smart be, surrounding these other players when, maybe that's what we need to point to. The Blues game, though, just really quickly, and then I'll let you guys talk too, but I just felt like they just gave up in that one. I don't know if it was like the looming trade deadline got in their heads. I don't know what that was, but that game was terrible. So disappointing. And it's like their give it ishometer was just at zero, -5. I don't know. It was just terrible. So I don't know what was up with that game. And then to come back and play the Canucks and win, I don't know. Too little too late with the Canucks game, but it was fun to watch that game, to be honest, just because it was there they were. It was like almost a good team. And it's like frustrating though, because there's nothing left to play for this season. So I don't know. And Joey almost had a goalie goal. So just a matter of time before we get there. It's going to happen. But that's kind of my broad overview of those games that we missed while we were off.
Yeah, I think that was a great summation, Heather. And I also just want to go back to the Berkey comment. It's kind of funny because, earlier we were talking about the veteran leadership that we need. And it's kind of funny to see like a 22-year-old kid or whatever. Is that how old Shane Wright is? 22? Go out there and save this aging man from complete embarrassment like we've been seeing from Andrei Burakovsky. Yeah, I mean, these 4 games, really, I mean, they're low-key kind of just like a really good summation of where the Kraken are right now. It's just complete randomness, like complete just variance hockey. We know a couple things are going to be true every game, and that's like that the Kraken are going to put up like about 2 expected goals and maybe a little bit less than that. That's usually what they're doing, like 1.5 to 2 expected goals a night, which is not going to win you a season, obviously. We also know that they're going to allow, a few expected goals a night, and that Joey Daccord is probably going to hopefully bail them out of a couple. He's usually good for a goal or two, which is pretty insane. Vezina finalist for sure. He's literally just stealing goals left and right. In this series of 4 games, the Kraken did not outscore their opponent in expected goals once, and that included a 6-3 W. In the 7-2 loss to the Blues, the expected goals were like basically like 2 to 1.8. So there's just complete randomness going on right now. It's like this weird void. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for I'm ready for the ability to upgrade this team to start kicking in. I'm really tired of seeing this one. And I'll be glad for the trade deadline. I'll really be cheering for off-season additions. What do we got? Like 23 more games. So I don't know, let's buckle up. Hopefully we get to see some cool stuff. Yeah, but other than that,
Some young
excited.
kids.
Yeah, excited.
Young ones.
100%. Bring up the young kids, get them some NHL goals under their belts, and yeah, just really excited to see a lot of these players leave. And new ones come in. So feeling a lot like Alex. But I think that's the rational thing right now.
We've all come over to Alex's side now.
100%.
On the dark side, we
also,
have cookies.
Alex, we gotta mention this is staying in that the Kraken are now projected for, what did you say, 78 points this year. So we're all eating crow or whatever that expression is.
Well, I hate to say it, like I hate to be the one that had to be like, well, I expect 76 points from this team, and the fact that it's going to most likely happen is kind of depressing in its own way. But bringing it back to these 4 games, these series of 4 games is the Kraken season in a nutshell. Like the fact that you can beat the reigning Stanley Cup champions in a 2-1 game. Okay. Lose 4-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Okay, understandable. Get blown out 7-2 by the St. Louis Blues, who are not going to make the playoffs either. And then beat the Vancouver Canucks 6-3. Like, this is the Seattle Kraken in a season in a nutshell. Like, it really is. There are some positives, though. Shane Wright is an absolute gem. And I find it ironic because before the season started, I made a weird prediction I made on Twitter, and it kind of popped up actually today, was that I mentioned the fact that Shane Wright would become the number 1 story of the season for the Kraken. and that Matty Beniers would fall somewhere, around that second place area of discussion. And I think that's remotely come true. Like, this is no longer us talking about Matty Beniers. Most of the time we're talking about Shane Wright. And that's something that we've really seen. He's gotten, I believe it's 34 points in the last 40 games since being healthy scratched in November. Like, he's playing the level of his game has just been something that's been absolutely incredible. And you just hope that there's no burnout there. That he's going to keep learning and keep growing, and I think he's got this fire all of a sudden that I think that I know I've been echoing since we drafted him, being like, you just got to give him time, you just got to give him time, you just got to give him the opportunities, and he's delivering now. Secondly, I just want to say I'm worried about Joey Daccord. I think that man is burning out so hard because we don't have a reliable backup goaltender, and Bilesma's doing anything in his power, but at the end of the day, he needs to utilize Joey Daccord because he's the only reliable goaltender. That's nothing towards, Alisteska. That's nothing towards, Nicholas Coco. That's nothing even towards Philip Grubauer. It's just, we have Joey Daccord and we have three other goaltenders that are mid, to say the least. And Coco's 20, like nothing towards him. And that game against St. Louis was, that's not a memorable first NHL game. Like, the team fed Joey to the dogs, and then I don't know why you even consider being like, hey, Coco, we are being absolutely demolished, you're in. Like, it, to me, that doesn't make sense. So hopefully, especially with him being sent down, because with the Grubauer recall, hopefully he can get some minutes down in Coachella now and just play there for the rest of the season, figure it out, just have some fun, do a chase in the playoffs and have some fun there. But kind of echoing what Derek said, thank God it's the week of the trade deadline, because I am so ready in my own way to say goodbye to some players, not in a way of being like, thank God you're gone, but it's more like, you've done your job. It's time to move on and part ways. This team needs a drastic change. Drastic rebuild, not a retool, Mr. Lewicki, a rebuild. And we need that. And I think this week is going to be a determining factor as to what happens, because if we only sell Daniel Sprong for future considerations, I will rip out whatever is left of my remaining hair and go absolutely crazy. But yeah,
I will scream.
But yeah, just in regards to the games that we witnessed over the last week and a bit, yeah, just Kraken season in a nutshell. Kraken season in a nutshell.
100%.
I worry about Joey too, though. I think he's showing wear and tear for sure. As much as goalies say, I want to play every game. I know that, but they can't, and he's been leaned on far too much, I think. Yeah.
Well, you even start seeing like some of the goals that he lets in, and it's just been like, it's like he's behind by half a second. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not Joey. No, but then I'm also saying, okay, he's been playing a lot. It happened last year. Mm-hmm. He had a really hot hand in the new year, and then he just kind of hit a wall. And it was like, well, yeah, you played him like 30 games in like a matter of 35 games. He's exhausted, and we're seeing that again.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're going down to the valley. We're going to talk about our Coachella Valley Firebirds. So the Firebirds played a lot of games since we took our Four Nations break. We're not going to dig into all of them because you do not want to listen to us for like 10 minutes talk about a bunch of games. But they did go 5-3 in the 8 games they played. But we do want to give some of the highlights of this. So since going down to Coachella, Gru has played 7 games, like we mentioned before, and he won 5 of those. Ben Myers has been playing very well, and I think that's why he got the call up to the Kraken. Obviously, we can't talk about the Firebirds without talking about the one and only Yanni Niemann. He has 25 goals on the season and 15 assists. Let's just mention that he is a rookie in the AHL. 8 of those goals are power play goals. He's had 127 shot attempts this season. By the way, the next highest is Ty Nelson at 101. While shot attempts aren't everything, it's definitely nice to see a player willing to take shots. Seattle. And can't wait to see him up with the Kraken. And I honestly think it's going to happen this season. Once the deadline passes, we're going to need to fill in slots. And I think Yanni Niemann has earned the opportunity. But the fact that he has 25 goals this season, he is in contention at this point, I believe, to for top goal scorer in the AHL this season, and that's a statement from a player who's first year in North America. So it's unbelievable, and I know Heather, I know you've been talking about him as well. Do you have any takes on Yanni Neiman as well?
I mean, I think he also has the most goals of all rookies in general, right? This season in the AHL. Yeah, I mean, he's so consistent and he's so fun. He's so fun to watch. Like that's what's fun about the Firebirds game is watching these younger players start to really develop and gel with their teammates. And I mean, every night I find something about him that I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that shot. Oh my gosh, look at that pass. Oh my gosh, look at that goal. Like it's really fun to watch him. I can't wait to see him up. And I think you're right. After the trade deadline, I think for sure we're going to see him. And it's well deserved. It's so well deserved. He's young and I think he's going to slot in so well. And it'll be some stumbling blocks like any AHL player coming up to the NHL, but I think he'll fit in extremely well because he's handled this move to the US playing there so well. So I'm excited for him. He's definitely on my radar.
I don't know why, but I really would like to see him on a wing of Shane Wright. I don't know why. I feel like that would click so well.
That'd be fun.
So keep an eye on that. And that's another Finn. So, that'd be really nice for Kako and Tolvanen.
Yeah.
But just a couple other things in regards to the Firebirds. So during the Firebirds game on the 28th, the power play went 4 for 4. Like we don't see this in Seattle. Like Coachella is just a different beast. And they've been pretty consistent this season. So something's working down there. There's something in the water because it's been working for them. So just a really, really quick recap on the results in Coachella. So on February 12th, they lost 5-4 at Henderson Silver Knights. February 15th, they lost 5-3 at San Diego Gulls. February 16th, it was a 4-3 win against the Bakersfield Condors. February 19th was a 5-2 win against the Tucson Roadrunners. February 22nd was a 4-1 win against the Calgary Wranglers. February 23rd was a 5-3 win against the San Jose Barracuda. February 26th was a 2-1 loss against the Henderson Silver Knights. And finally, on February 28th, it was a 6-5 win at San Diego against the Gulls.
And if you want to watch any Firebirds games this week, which I highly recommend, they play Tuesday, March 4th at the Calgary Wranglers and then Wednesday, March 5th at the Calgary Wranglers. And that race is so tight. Those will be some really fun games to watch. Our top Firebirds this week, we have Yanni Newman, who we were just talking about. He has 40 points in 45 games played. Logan Morrison has 33 points in 54 games played. And Max Lajoie has 31 points in 53 games played.
And moving back down to like the AHL standings, it's actually wild in the Pacific. So Coachella currently is third when you look at the rankings with 66 points in 54 games played. The Wranglers are in second with 66 points in 54 games played. We're kind of looking at, regulation and rules. It could be the record between the two teams, but the Wranglers sit ahead of Coachella. Same games played, same points, same amount of wins, actually. In regulation, there's been a couple of overtime losses compared to shootout losses, so there might be something in there, but we haven't really been able to find the regulations. And then finally, Colorado Eagles have taken over the first place spot with 67 points in 51 games. It's so nail tight because you also have the Ontario Reign sitting in fourth with 65 points, and then the Barracuda have 61, Canucks have 59. Like it's tight. It's close up from like 1 to 6. It's anybody's game, so it's gonna be a nail biter all the way to the end of the season because a couple wins here, maybe a loss here could really determine who's going to make the playoffs or like the seeding even on who's going to play who. So if you don't watch AHL hockey and you need a break from NHL hockey, because sometimes you do, would highly recommend checking out some Coachella Valley Firebird hockey because it's been fun and they've been fun ever since they became a team.
And it's going to be fun obviously they're going to make a playoff run. So when the Kraken are out, we'll still have really fun hockey that means something to us since we're watching these players play. So it's going to be really fun. All the ones that might have come up to play for the Kraken will go back down that are eligible. And that will be really fun. It's going to be so fun to watch their playoff run. I'm excited for that.
100%. I really hope that we can see like players like Yanni Neiman and Ryan Winterton,
Winterton.
who get called up to Seattle and develop a really good chemistry up there, and then get sent down at the end of the season, and they're just fueled and fired up. Like that, just like the whole thought process behind that just makes me excited for AHL playoff hockey.
Yeah.
And with that, that's going to take us to the sound table. Sound Table is our weekly look around the NHL and hockey world for other news outside of the Kraken organization, and we start off with something that's a little far gone at this point, but the Four Nations face-off came to an end last week, and what a tournament it was. Absolutely electric crowds in both Montreal and Boston as they watched the best on best hockey returning to the ice with matchups between Canada, the USA, Sweden, and Finland. One of the highlights for the tournament had to be the round-robin game between US and Canada, which featured 3 fights in the first 9 seconds and really got the sports world talking. Much to the delight of Alex and I, Canada claimed the first Four Nations Cup thanks to a thrilling overtime winner from Connor McDavid, giving Canada the win and another iconic golden goal moment. The final between the US and Canada drew an average viewership on ESPN of 9.252 million viewers, making it the most watched non-Olympic hockey game on record. In a fun little follow-up following his gold medal goal, 2 McDonald's locations, one in Edmonton and one in McDavid's hometown of Newmarket, Ontario, announced that they would be renaming their McDonald's locations to McDavid's for a limited time. Next up, we love it when JT Brown is between the benches for the Kraken, but it certainly seems like that can be a dangerous job. While providing commentary for a game between the Rangers and the Sabres, Buffalo commentator Rob Ray took a puck to the face and let a very loud F-bomb on the broadcast. If you have not seen the clip, go find it on YouTube or on Twitter. It is quite hilarious. Just as a precaution, in the next game, Ray was set up in the 300 level, very top nosebleed seats just to be safe. And in addition to that, when Buffalo came to Carolina on Thursday night, the Hurricanes generously offered a giant roll of bubble wrap to Ray to keep his face safe for the game in his return to Between the Benches coverage. This weekend saw the return of the NHL Stadium Series as the game took place at Columbus's Ohio Stadium as the Blue Jackets took on the Red Wings. The final score was 5-3 for Columbus, so a great win for the hometown team. The game's turnout was 94,751 fans, which made it the second highest attended game in NHL history behind the 2014 Winter Classic at Michigan Stadium. So huge turnout, was an awesome event, was an awesome intermission show, and as always, it's good to see that hometown team get the win. And now on the stat sheet, in a first-of-its-kind feat, Pittsburgh Penguins stars Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin have become the first duo in NHL history to have received 400 wins in games where they have both recorded a point. We always love our weird milestones and achievements here on Beneath the Waves, so it's very cool to see something happening like that. Some breaking news today on Sunday when this is being recorded. The reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers have placed Matthew Tkachuk on long-term injured reserve ahead of the trade deadline. He has not played since the Four Nations face-off and now has officially been given that status. With this move, according to Puckpedia, this means that the Panthers will have $8.7 million in cap space. Is this the Panthers taking a page out of the VGK/Mark Stone playoff playbook? Time will only tell, so we'll have to wait and see what happens in the coming days here until he returns. And now it's time for some goalie updates. We have another goalie goal on this season. No, it was not Joey Daccord, although he definitely attempted in the Canucks game, which head coach Dan Bylsma said was a real muffin of a shot. So he needs to put a lot more work in practices to make it actually happen. This one came courtesy of Ilya Sorokin from the New York Islanders. During Saturday's game between the Islanders and the Predators, the Preds had pulled their goalie to use the extra attacker at the end of the game. Following a rebound off of Ilya Sorokin, Steven Stamkos botched a pass that went all the way down the ice and in, and because Sorokin was the last one to touch the puck on the Islanders side, this resulted in the goal being credited to him. The Marc-Andre Fleury retirement tour continues on, with Flower hitting another milestone in his illustrious career. He has now passed Roberto Luongo's mark of 1,044 games to secure second place on all-time games played in the NHL, only trailing Martin Brodeur with 1,266 games. Obviously, with him retiring this year, that is not going to be possible to catch, but I think for some lengthy period of time here, he should have that second spot pretty well secured. is something that we love keeping track of. The PWHL Takeover Tour had continued with 2 more stops since we took our Four Nations break 2 weeks ago. The first stop was at Edmonton on February 16th as the Toronto Scepters battled the Ottawa Charge in front of a crowd of 17,518 fans. The second game was on February 23rd in Buffalo when it saw the New York Sirens and the Boston Fleet playing for 8,510 fans, which is the lowest on the tour so far. This certainly doesn't bode well for any potential expansion in Buffalo, especially with an announcement on league expansion expected in the coming weeks. And as we always close out the sound table, we have OV record watch as Alexander Ovechkin now sits at 883 goals, only 11 away from Wayne Gretzky's record of 894. He needs to accomplish this feat in 17 games or less to get the feat faster than Gretzky did. Another interesting milestone for the Great Eight. Following his hat-trick against Edmonton a week or so ago, Ovechkin recorded his 200th goal since January 1st, 2020. This makes him the first player in NHL history to ever score 200 goals in 3 different decades, as he accomplished 245 in the 2000s, 437 in the 2010s, and now 200 plus in the 2020s. So just continue collecting those accolades and honors, Alexander Ovechkin. We will hopefully see that record broken real soon, and it is going to be very exciting when it does happen. And that concludes this week's Sound Table. Heather, would you like to let the folks know what our week ahead looks like here at BTW?
I would love to. So the Kraken play Tuesday, March 4th against the Minnesota Wild. This is a home game and it is a stream game. So if you are not going to the game, come hang out with us, keep us company, comment, chat along. It really helps us through these games, especially in this long stretch to the end of the season. If you are going to the game, it is Philip Grubauer bobblehead night. So it'll be interesting to see either way how that plays out, if he plays or not. After that, the Kraken go on the road for the next 3 games. They play Thursday, March 6th at the Nashville Predators. That's a 5 p.m. Pacific time start. And then they play Saturday, March 8th at the Philadelphia Flyers. That's a 9:30 a.m. PST start. So it's a morning game, super early. And then Sunday, March 9th, they play against the Washington Capitals. It's a 12:30 Pacific time start, but that is also time change day. So just heads up, we do spring forward, so time will be a little bit different, but it is 12:30 overall.
And Derek, did you want to let the people know where they can find us this week online?
Absolutely. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube and leave a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice. Please drop a follow. And then I also wanted to let you guys know at bit.ly/BTW store, there's going to be 15% off everything March 6th through the 11th. We have a brand new design in the store, so make sure you pay attention to our socials for a reminder of our 15% off sale this week to save on this new design, as well as the Joey design, Monty Mania, and all BTW merch. Our acronym, where you can find us, that good stuff. I have a little, it's reminiscent of our poetry days during Christmas. But so here we go. By the time we make playoffs again, our hair may be gone or gray. But you should still join in on the fun with us over at BTW SEA. All right, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
We going beneath the waves.